Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this May 20th version of AM Live on EOA. Your connection to Eastern Oregon, we are glad that you are here with us today. If you want to find our content, you can find any of that at eoa.network. That takes you to a link tree where you can find the locations of all of the different places where our content shows up. Here in a little bit, we are going to have the LeGrand former mayor, Steve Clements, is going to be with us, good friend of mine, and always enjoy the conversation that I have with Steve. And we're going to shoot the breeze for a bit. So, how are you, man?
Good.
Good?
Good. Yeah, second Monday.
Yeah.
Second Monday after a long weekend.
Yeah. Things all right?
Good. Yeah, things are good.
Yeah. I mean, I know you got a lot of sports, so let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
All right.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit. Unlock the excitement of chance with Mystery Dice by Mystery Dice Goblin. Featuring over 150 unique sets, each roll delivers a surprise. Only at Hobby Habit in LeGrand. Just for the fun of it. Let's start it off with a little baseball. LHS celebrated their seniors on Friday versus Pendleton. Unfortunately, the Tigers didn't get the result that you would hope for on senior day as they dropped both ends of the doubleheader, 0-12 and 2-5, to push their final GOL record to 6-6. The Tigers will host a league play-in game next week for the playoffs, and they wrap up their regular season on Thursday down at Pioneer Park versus Mac High at 3 p.m. The LHS softball team also dropped both ends of a doubleheader versus Pendleton on Friday. It was super disappointing. It was a tough day for the Tigers. It was their first two losses of the season. Their record drops to 23-2. The crazy part, the state rankings didn't change for them. They didn't move. They stayed number 2, which is just dumbfounds me. Like, you lose 2 games and you don't move anywhere in the state rankings. And the rankings were frozen last night at like 10 o'clock. So with that being said, they're going to host all the way throughout the playoffs. And that's wild. They'll kick it off at home on the 27th versus a team to be determined. And I mean this OSA ranking thing is just out. It dumbfounds me. They'll look for their 24th win of the season tonight as they end their regular season at home versus Weston McEwen. 4 o'clock right here, Pioneer Park. EOU had their annual blue and gold celebration over the weekend as the track and softball teams both prepared to head to nationals. The EOU softball team will kick off their quest for a natty on Thursday at 1 p.m. our time versus Reinhardt in Columbus, Georgia. I'll keep you posted with a link to that as we get closer to Thursday. That's going to be awesome. EOU's the 7 seed. They're taking on the number 10 seed, Reinhardt. And if they win that game, they get the second round matchup that we all want to see, which is Georgia Gwinnett, the team that knocked them out in the opening round last year. It's going to be an awesome week for EOU softball. The track and field team will start competition tomorrow in Marion, Indiana. Go to eousports.com for more information regarding that. That's the national championships for them. They got 18 people there, and it's going to be a great week for them as well. I got to go to the EOU volleyball alumni game during Blue and Gold weekend. As you can see, it's always really fun for me to be able to go back and see families, and the women's soccer alumni game and then the men's soccer alumni game as well. And people that I've had on my show in the past, people that I've taken pictures of, they come back and they still have this same joy for the particular sport that they played while they were in college. And I really enjoy the alumni games. It's awesome. LeGrand Little League, they need the help of local businesses. June 23rd through the 30th. Go ahead and put that one up now, Benny, the Little League picture. The LeGrand Little League is hosting the District 3 All-Star Tournament, which means 600 plus extra people in town for that whole week. And they need, like, sponsors, per se. It's on there what they need you to help out with as businesses. Discounts or coupons, recognize the umpires with special deals or tokens of appreciation, donate meals, or partner with Little League to assist in covering the cost of meals for umpires. Join in the spirit by decorating your business windows around town. It doesn't even have to be just downtown for the district all-star teams. And then the benefit to local businesses is you gain exposure, and there's a lot of people in town that weekend. You can scan the QR code on the screen there, or message us at EO Live or me for more information or the link to sign up. Wow, a lot there. As for the sports show, LHS grad Devin Bell talked about his commitment to the University of Oregon for baseball yesterday, which you can find on all of our content, including Facebook, Roku, YouTube, and Spotify. And the 4A Basketball Player of the Year and EOU commit Isaiah Jones will be my guest tomorrow. Here's a sneak peek. What's the thing you're looking forward to the most about going to EOU?
I would say just the level of competition. I mean, high school, of course, like we were competitive, but I think college is a whole nother level, and there's obviously better dudes, and so I think that'll just bring a better competition.
I sent a text to Kemp, and I just said, I am so glad that Isaiah realized that this is the level that he needs to be at. You know, that's exact. I mean, I could show it to you, just about word for word right there. And I'm so glad that you were grounded enough to know that this is the right level for you, because it is.
Yeah.
And I believe that 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, college is like different. You got people transferring, going up, down, staying the same. So
yeah,
like,
who knows? In 2 years, maybe it's not.
No, I know, it's true. Like, you're never going to have the same college team every year. It's different dudes. And so that's always a thing. Like, our team at Eastern, I don't think is going to be the same every year. So it'll be, I think just building like a good relationship with the team that we do have that year.
Yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Go check out LeGrand Softball today at 4 down at Pioneer Park. It should be a great game. AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it.
All right. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do our weather segment. So CHD is our weather sponsor for several of these shows. We appreciate them being a part of this, and this is all of CHD developmental disabilities and helping recognize the needs of vulnerable adults. Okay, let's take a look outside, see how it looks. Give us that outside. Yep. It's pretty. I don't know, it's supposed to rain this morning or today or not.
I haven't looked yet.
It kind of looks a little misty. It looks like the wind is blowing a little bit. Give us that weather graphic, Bennett. So 71 today, sunny. That'd be awesome.
I don't know if I trust this weather graphic anymore after what it said was supposed to be this weekend. And
it kind of bombed.
Oh, man. It said it was going to be sunny and nice, and it was just crud.
Yeah. So
80 tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be pretty consistently nice, it looks like, all through the week.
All righty. Looks like it'll be a nice day. Hopefully the rain will hold off. And so just take a quick look at this video from CHD. So hey Chris, thanks for being a part of this conversation. And today's conversation is about vulnerable adults in Union County. Let's start with, first of all, how do we identify them?
So Oregon State statute has identified anyone that is 18 years of age or older that has an intellectual developmental disability, mental illness, or is over the age of 65, or with a physical disability as a vulnerable adult population.
One of the points of this conversation is to help people watch out for each other and to be aware if somebody might be being mistreated in some manner. How do we identify that, and what do we do about it?
Anytime that you see or hear of something that makes you uncomfortable about a population that Center for Human Development works with, intellectual developmental disabilities, mental illness, it's always the right thing to do to place that call. Trained screeners like myself know how to start, know what to look for, and what to go with. So if your gut's telling you that something's not quite right, make that call.
What if I'm afraid of embarrassing somebody, or I don't want to sound the alarm if there's not really a concern? What do you say to people who might be in that situation?
I always say if you're not sure if you should make that call, then you definitely need to make the call. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Could be someone's health and safety at risk.
Tell us, who do we reach out to? What do we do?
So there are two numbers to get a hold of me. The first is the SAFE line, which is the Oregon screening line, and that's 855-503-SAFE. Or you can reach me directly to my desk at 541-962-8889.
Hey, thanks, Chris. And we'll be having more of these conversations.
Sounds good.
All right. When we come back, we will have former LeGrand City Council Mayor Steve Clements will be with us. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. My friend Steve Clements. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
You were just talking about the weather.
Yeah.
We had Lad Marsh Bird Festival on this weekend. I had my wife and I have a station that we hang out at for 6 hours, from 6 in the morning to 12 noon. It was okay until about 8.
And then it just...
And then it opened up, and it rained for 4 hours. We had a surprising number of people who came through, and I'm really glad that I brought a canopy,
right,
and some chairs to sit down underneath the canopy. It was one of the wettest days I can remember in 20 years of the festival.
Wow.
So
that always makes it challenging.
It does, but if you're fortunately, I was dressed right.
Yeah.
I had good rubber boots on, and I had several layers of clothes and a raincoat, and the outside got wet, but the inside was warm.
Yeah. Several years ago, when we would travel with LeGrand High School and do their out-of-town games, they had a playoff game in Coos Bay. That's not the school. What is it anyhow?
North Bend?
North Bend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went and it was just Tanya and I, and we hired a play-by-play guy from that area, and we set up in a 10-by-10 canopy because it looked like it was going to rain, and Tanya ran the camera, and I was doing the controls, and in the middle of the game, I could see something in front of the camera, and it just looked funny. I didn't know what it was, and I looked over, and the rain is pouring off of the canopy in a stream in front of the camera. It was just, it was the most miserable. I mean, we got through it, but it was like crazy.
It's no fun, but it's so much for forecasts.
Yeah. So hey, how you doing?
I'm well. Just been hanging out. We had budget hearings last week, which I'm part of. Interesting stuff, but nothing earth-shattering. Other than that, trying to get out on the bicycle every once in a while and planning some stuff for the summer. And it's.
Is it fun? Is it weird being? Because for those people that don't know, the city of LeGrand and every organization, the county does this. They put together, all of the departments put together a budget based upon, hey, this is what we spent last year, and these are the goals that we have for next year, and these are things, and they submit a budget that goes through a process, and then that budget, which is gathered together by mostly administration, then is evaluated by the city council. It's doubled its size. It's the city council, and then they add to it
it's 7 councilors and seven budget commission members.
But these are public people that
Yes.
chose to be a part of this budget committee.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I, after I stepped down from the council in 2022, I applied to be on the budget committee.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the committee now as a citizen.
Right. Is that a different place? I mean, how do you think
Yeah,
about
it
how,
is.
how
And I
does,
think some of that came up during this last budget session,
Yeah.
which was surprising to me. But it never really occurred. It was never really an overt discussion. That there is, I think, a distinction between the council members of the budget committee and the non-council members of the budget committee. Councilors are elected by the people of LeGrand to make policy,
right.
and part of the budget is policy. And I look at the role of the citizen member of the budget committee as not to be, to review the budget, to have a conversation about where money is being spent, but not to set policy, because I wasn't elected to do that.
Right.
I was appointed by the council to fill an oversight and a review position, and it is kind of weird,
Yeah.
because my all the time I've spent on council, I did policy, and I kind of want to automatically jump into that.
By
but
policy meaning this is the direction I think the city should go.
right,
Right.
and we
Right.
should be hiring 5
This.
more people
Right,
to do
right.
these things in the
Right,
city, and
right.
and I, if a council member of the budget commission brought that up, I think the proper role of a citizen member of the commission is to say, all right, where in the budget, how do we fund this?
Yeah.
Where does the money come from if we have a fixed amount of resources, and now you're saying you want 5 more people?
Right.
How do you do that?
Right.
And does that shuffling make sense? So
Yeah, and when I was running for commissioner, I looked pretty carefully into how the county did this too. And, and it's very similar. I think the thing that is always, the thing that is difficult for the citizen, I think, is to have input into how money is being spent before it's budgeted. Because the nature of the budgets and the nature of this process is it is so complicated and huge. And the binders that you are looking at are that thick.
yes,
And every section, and the county is very much the same way.
right.
And so the most logical way to do it is, how did we do it last year, and how do we want to do it different than what we did last year?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's the logical
You have
way.
a starting point with the
Right.
previous year. And Brent, you're right. It's not an easy it's not an easy process to understand.
Right.
And it's not an easy process to plug in as a citizen and to comment, because starting in January, typically, at least in the city, this has been the trend. Starting in January of, which is about halfway through the budget cycle for a
Right.
fiscal year, the city councilors meet, and they talk about their goals and their priorities for the year. City staff, including the city manager, takes that information, and then they start to work up their own individual budgets.
Right.
There really is no place in that process for citizens to plug in, except at council meetings in general, when there's always public comment sections and people can come and talk about what they think. But really the role for public input is during the budget hearings itself.
Right.
And we have gone years where we ask for public input or public comment, and there's no one there.
Right. But
And that doesn't surprise me, because it
Right.
is complicated.
Right. But, from knowing what I know now, and I totally understand the why all of this happens. But by the time the public has an opportunity to comment, or even a level of a person, I mean, so even though the budget committee is not there to make policy, okay, and we saw this happen over the two nights of meetings, there were comments from the budget people about policy, okay, but by then it was really too late.
Yeah.
Right, and so then how much less important or how much less influence would somebody standing at the podium have?
You know, you say that, and you're right. How much less? It really depends on the activity of the budget or the
Yeah.
direction of the budget.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
I do.
But
I know what
years
you're talking
back,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
where there was talk about closing the pool,
Right.
and that happened on the Monday night, or
And it wasn't really even talk. It was
what
the-
would happen if.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And what would we save? And okay, and how long? Would you still have to maintain the pool and all of those things? And what happened the next
Man,
night?
there were like
There were
20 people.
20 people in there supporting the pool.
Right.
And so, and I think if you were to say, "Gee, we're going to cut we have to cut police officers and fire, because we need $500,000, and that's the easiest place to get it." I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I would imagine there would be a number of people who
Yeah.
came up the next night and said, "Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We don't agree with that." And then the conversation would be, all right, if we need to cut $500,000, first off, that should have been done, recognized and done much earlier.
Right.
And a good budget officer like Robert Strope or whoever the city manager is at the time would have said, okay, here are some alternatives.
Right.
Here are ways to cut the $500,000 without eliminating police or fire.
Right.
Right. That means you might have to take out a position or two at the library. You may have to reduce pool hours. You might have to cut back on seasonal park employees. But they would give you alternatives to supporting that $500,000 cut without going to police and fire.
Right.
Because I would recognize, I think rightfully so, that the council would prioritize those positions over other city services. So anyway,
No, and I guess, and one thing I think that is amusing a little bit is that, so it came down to it and the city council was looking for $500,000, something like that.
Yeah,
This
400, I think.
budget committee. Okay. Yeah.
400,000. I think.
Right. And I mean, that was resolved essentially by saying we're going to put $400,000 less into our savings account for future expenditures.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that is a little bit like what that reminds me of is somebody who has, I don't know, a couple of $1 million in bonds and savings that they're living on in their retirement, but they're trying to make themselves live on what they're getting for Social Security. And then if an extra expense comes up, it's like, oh, well, I'm broke. I'm trying to live on my Social Security. It's like, well, yeah, but you do have a couple of $1 million that you could draw from, and
Right. It is, yeah.
you kind of get where I'm going there.
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I think one of the things that we've failed to do, not just at a city level, but I think at other governmental levels, we've failed to reserve enough monies for the capital maintenance and the asset maintenance that we have. And so, buildings, the HVAC systems on buildings go out, and the roof needs to be repaired, and it needs to be painted to make it look good. And if you don't save for those things, and you prepare for them, then boy, oh boy, how do you do it? Right.
And I don't disagree with that, but sometimes the savings become so routine that it's almost hidden, and it's not that anybody's hiding it on purpose. And it's just and so then something comes up. It's like, well, where are we going to get another $200,000 for an officer that we need, or whatever the case might? Or I mean, then
I think
yeah.
in this case, what happened, and the council made policy. They said if the ending fund balance is greater than the amount we anticipated, so if they said 23 or 25, 26, 24, 25, which was last fiscal year, that we would have $2 million in ending fund balance that hadn't got spent, but we ended up with $3 million.
Okay.
They would take that $1 million and divvy it up, and they would give. And the policy I think the council made, and I don't remember it verbatim, was some of it would go to streets and roads, out of general fund. Some would go to streets and roads. Some would go to capital improvement, and some would go back into general fund.
Yeah.
Right. And so what they did instead this year, and I think we've done this in the past, instead of taking all of that money, they took $400,000 and said, okay, we're going to still fund roads, right? We're still going to give money to the roads, but we're not going to put as much into the capital improvement fund,
Right.
or the capital maintenance fund. And it's like, okay, well, that means there's less there for the future when you want. So,
Right, but I don't. Yeah, I wish that would have. I don't think that. I mean, there was a lot of anxiety in that room in order to make that happen.
yeah,
And I, in my opinion, it should have happened a little bit more automatically.
yep. Well, it should have, and I think
Yeah.
I think that because that policy or that resolution was
Yeah.
in place, that's the way the budget was prepared.
Right.
With that understanding. And I think we heard Robert say this, Robert Stroop say this, that if that's no longer the council's desire,
Right.
they should repeal that resolution and make a new one or make a new policy so
Yeah.
that money stays. So
Right, and I think that and Robert made it. Robert is very good at the budgeting books. You call him what you call the manager, the budget manager.
it's a budget officer.
Yeah, and he is very good at that.
Yep.
And so and what he repeatedly said was, I will prepare the budget the way the city council tells me to prepare it.
Yep.
Okay, and I totally believe that.
Yep.
The problem is that it's hard for the city council to really have all of that knowledge to direct the budget to be prepared in a particular manner. And I see that on the looks of the faces of the council members. They're like, wait a minute, we're not going to, or wait a minute, we don't,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that happens in systems everywhere.
Right.
Because somebody's brand new, there's so much information for them to gather. They presume, and so I'm just saying the whole process is really difficult because the answer to my question earlier is how does the public really have input into this? Well, they really have input into that, into who they elect on the city council.
Right.
And those members should express their desires.
Yep.
Okay. Or express the desires that they're representing. Yeah.
Yes.
But that takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of they don't want to look stupid.
Right.
They don't want to, just blurt something out. Well, why don't we?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the role. Counselors are not professional city managers.
Right.
Or they're not. They don't have the. Very few of them have a real full grasp of what's going on in the city. I never had it, and I was on council for a long time. And what I had was what I had garnered from council meetings and conversations with department directors, and so I had a better understanding of what's going on out there. But I don't know how to run a public works department.
Right.
I don't know how to run a police department. I was always very thankful that we had professionals who did that.
Right.
And so I could breathe easy
Yeah.
that and respect what they presented to us as a budget and said, this is what I need. This is what
Yeah.
I'm asking for within the confines of what we set as goals and priorities as a council.
Yeah.
It's even tougher for a person to walk off the street and have good questions or knowledgeable questions about the budget.
Yeah.
Because it is complicated. Because it's. But I think the process that we have is as transparent as it can possibly be. You want to see the budget, you can have a copy.
Right.
You want to be involved with the conversation, you can be on the commission.
Yeah.
You want to have public input, talk to a counselor,
Yeah.
and they will represent you to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the big moves that sometime, and I mean, I'm thinking back to like, and I don't know this, how did the swimming pool get built and created? How did the library get? I mean, both of those are fairly new facilities.
yes, yeah,
Okay, but some council member or some body said, hey, this is a necessary thing and we got to figure out how to,
right.
I mean, those are big moves that
Yeah.
had to happen some
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
The library, we benefited from a $1 million request from I think Tom and Maxine Cook. Left in their estate $1 million towards a new library specifically.
Yeah.
We took that and leveraged what we had. If I remember correctly, the library was built without any bond measure or increase in taxes.
Yeah.
We had money in a capital reserve fund, which had accumulated over a number of years. We had $1 million of extra money that was given to the city. And we also had developed a relationship between, at that time, with the Oregon Dental Insurance, ODS, who built
The pavilion.
the pavilion.
with
Yeah,
the- yeah.
yeah. And so they helped to buy the land from Safeway. They donated a portion, I think, to the city to build the library. We had the money in reserve, and we had a donation, and a bequest, and it happened. It was
Right.
miraculous. I mean, it was, aside from having a flat roof, which we told the architects, no, it's not going to work. That's what we ended up with. The fire station was almost along the same lines.
Yeah.
We got and the pool. We did some legwork ahead of time, and we surveyed the people in the city, and we found out what they wanted and what they supported within a pool, and then we put a bond measure out. I think that was the last bond measure the city actually passed,
Huh.
and it was a 20-year bond measure for the pool, and people supported it, and they passed it, and it's been more than 20 years, so it's all paid off.
No, but those are big, and you take like the library, I mean, the expense of the building is just the very beginning.
Yeah,
I mean, you're expanding that entire department for the next,
yeah. And we had to
However
add
long,
more
right,
people,
yeah.
and there was some budget requests this year to put a bit of money in the library budget into the reserve,
Yeah.
so that they could, repair the roof at some point, put a new HVAC in, put new computers in there,
Yeah.
put new carpeting in. I was surprised when Carrie mentioned how many people pass through the library. 50 to 60,000 visitors a month.
wow.
I mean, that's a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I think that says a lot for the use of that building and for the service that it provides.
Yep.
So
50 to 60, that's 2,000 a day. There's no way 2,000
okay,
people walk through that
I must
door a
have been.
day.
Maybe it was 5 to 6,000.
Okay, there I was like,
Okay.
I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm like,
Thanks for-
60,000 people. Like, I don't see 60,000 people in a year here.
Well, that would be like 3 times the population of the,
yeah,
of
I'm
the
like,
county.
I was trying
Thank
to
you for that
comprehend
catch.
I'm like, my
Thank you for that catch. And good, reality hits. 5 to 6,000 a day.
That sounds more.
That still is a lot.
Yeah,
A
5 to
month,
6,000
yeah.
a month. It's still a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It serves, and that's everybody in the county.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to come in and use that building.
Right.
So
And everybody in the county, but it's
it's funded by the citizens of LeGrand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to pay if you live outside
Yeah,
of the
there is-
city limits.
yeah.
If you live within the city limits, you have to have a piece of ID,
Right.
mail saying you live within the LeGrand city limits, and then there's a charge if you live in the county outside of the city limits.
Right. So and that helps, but
Yeah.
it is the bulk of the money comes from
Yeah.
citizens in the city. So
Well, let's.
let's transition a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise we-
How are you doing? What are you doing?
What am I doing? I was pretty active in the Ladmarsh Bird Festival. I'm a member of the board member of the Friends of Ladmarsh, and so we start our planning for that in January of the year.
Now, what is Friends of Ladmar? What do they do?
It's a small nonprofit that advocates for use and management of Ladmarsh. Most of the members who are on it are non-hunters. It would be great if there was a hunter out there who wanted to serve on the board. We would really appreciate having that perspective because, much of the use on the marsh is for hunting, for pheasant and duck
Yeah.
and other things. So, that starts in January, and we roll with it as hard and fast. And it just, as you can imagine, the closer you get to an event, the more time you have to put in.
So what do they do? What does let's back. Who manages Ladmarsh?
Ladmarsh is
What management is involved in that?
Right.
Yeah.
There's about 6,100 acres out on Ladmarsh. Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife is the management agency. They have areas that they plant to corn and other things like that. They have areas that they cut hay on, and then that hay is some rancher or farmer does the cutting. They have the city of LeGrand actually owns or is partnered with the marsh because ultimately all the treated sewage goes out there.
Right.
So instead of going years ago it used to go into the Grand Ronde River. Now it goes out to the marsh and it makes its way through ponds and ditches and ultimately gets to the river and it's clean.
Yeah.
So then Friends of Ladmarsh have been around for, a lot longer than I've been on the board, but they serve as an advocate. We run every Saturday, the first Saturday every month, we have a bird walk. People want to come out, we take people out to the marsh or other places in the valley to bird watch. We do education stuff with kids. We do an owl night where in February we take people out after dark in the cold and listen for owls. We put on the marsh the festival, which is I hope this is right. I hope it's better than my numbers, about 50 to 60,000 a year. We put on one of the only bird festivals on a wildlife management area in the state of Oregon. And Salem has sent people over here multiple times to see if they can't replicate it someplace else, and they haven't been able to, as far as I know. We've got some money built up. We want to, we've talked about putting in some observation blinds, maybe more informational type of things. There's the Tule Lake Auto Tour. There's a kiosk out there that we want to put some information on. So, and then there's a festival. That's our main event for the year. I think we had close to 300 people registered.
Wow. Now, out at Ladmarsh, somewhere there's a boardwalk that goes kind of out into the middle.
Yep.
Where is that? How do you get to that?
That's off of the, if I remember the one if it's the one
I've seen pictures of it. I've never been on it actually.
If you go out to Peach Road, and you're coming, maybe halfway between the Union Highway and the airport lane, there's a auto tour road, and it's open between March 1st and July 31st, and you can drive through there, and about 3/4 of the way through there, there's a boardwalk that goes out,
So yeah,
Now that was put in years ago.
I don't think I know. I don't think I've ever seen that.
You might miss it
Yeah.
because it was put out originally over open water.
Right.
But in the interim from when it was put in until now, all that open water has been grown up into cattails.
Oh.
It's on Tule Lake, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on
originally.
Tule Lake. So it's a lake that has tules in it, right? But it's hard to see because it gets grown in.
Yeah.
And
But the auto tour part of it, I don't think I've.
oh yeah, it's pretty easy to get to. Just go Peach Lane,
Yeah.
and if you know where the fish pond is, fishing pond on Peach
I don't
Lane.
think I do.
So for the people out there that are familiar with that, you can go to there's a pond that the ODFW stocks with trout, and there's always a lot of people out there, and they put some big fish in that little pond. And then you go a little bit further north of there, and the auto tour takes off to the east, and it's not very long, 3/4 a mile, maybe a mile.
But still, that's.
And it's nice. We were out there. I was out there 2 days ago, and there's a sort of a wet marshy area on a big bend, and there was a woman out there sketching some of the birds wading around in the water. So I thought that was, so people are using it to watch birds, but most areas closed down quite a bit during the fall hunting season, just to give the wildlife a break and give people safety. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Okay, well, let's switch topics again a little. Let's talk about politics for a minute.
Oh, we have to.
National politics,
We
yeah.
have to.
Mostly just from how it relates to you and I, because
Yes.
I mean, you're a Democrat, I'm
Registered
a Republican.
Democrat,
Yeah. And I don't think that, I think I would call both of us thinking people, we're able to think outside of our own.
Yeah.
Part. And that's, frankly, that's what made you a good mayor. is
Well,
that-
thank you.
Yeah, but man, it is just so polarized
Yeah.
right now. I mean,
I think some of it is both you and I are willing to listen.
yeah.
And we may not necessarily agree with what we hear, but we have some respect for what we're hearing. And there was something came up here. I saw it. There was a little caption on the CHD
Yeah.
thing that came up, and I think it comes down to this: we're all members of the same community,
Yeah.
and we need to look out for each other.
Right.
If there was a crisis, I can guarantee you party affiliations would drop out and people would come to help each other.
Yeah.
It would help neighbors in Burns when it was flooding big time. People, they didn't care who you voted for. They were going to help you,
Right.
right? We're going to help fill sandbags, and we're going to help protect your home, and we're
Yeah.
going to try. That's the bottom line.
Right.
And from there, it's not very difficult to keep that attitude and that sort of perspective and go up
Right.
in terms of dealing with each other politically.
Well, and I think just locally, I can't think of a single thing locally you and I would disagree about, because
Right.
because
we both care about our community.
right, yeah, we have this common interest in being able to take care of the local people here,
Right.
Whatever that, yeah, and so then all of that, whatever that affiliation is, it's really not relevant,
No.
at all,
No.
locally,
Right.
yeah. And
And what's funny, you say that because most of government impact is local, right? And yet where we seem to get all bent out of shape sometimes are with issues that are
really have nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
We have no control over.
we have no control. They're so high up here that there's other than writing to my representative and hoping that they'll listen to me what I'm saying and take that forward.
Yeah.
There's very little I can do to change federal policy. And that's frustrating,
Yeah.
right? So you just sit back and I found that the easiest thing to do, personally for the federal level, is just stay as informed as I can be, but not get don't let it eat me up.
Well, and I think that I mean, nobody is ever happy with their candidate. I'm not happy with Trump. I'm not happy with the person that he is, and I'm as appalled as anybody is.
Well,
From time to time,
Right.
Right. And so, but had it been, had we talked about this 4 years ago, you'd have been able to say, yeah, I'm not sure Biden. I mean, you would have criticism of Biden. So
right. I got criticism of him now for
Right.
I don't know much. Again, I know only what I hear on the media.
Right.
And how much of that
Is reliable.
Is reliable. But I'm sorry to hear that he has a cancer diagnosis of stage 4 prostate cancer. That didn't happen overnight.
Right.
And it's only been what 8 months since the election.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right. I'm getting what you're saying.
Right.
Right.
It's like, so what'd you lie to us for?
Right. And
Right?
so the point is nobody's happy with the way that we are electing presidents in any manner
Right.
I mean, it is super flawed.
Right.
And so then to be backed into a corner to defend somebody that I don't really want to defend,
Right.
is I mean,
It's
it's a horror.
tough.
And the fact that it's not relevant to local stuff.
Right.
I mean, all of those things just make
Right.
this whole situation
And
super complicated.
it's I'm in an interest. I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
honest with you on this. From what I know, I do not like Trump's personality. I don't like him as an individual. I think I would have a difficult time hanging out with the guy.
Yeah.
I've been watching. I'm not really enamored with all his policies, or his executive orders. But in the long run, somebody else is going to get elected, and somebody else is going to overturn those executive orders, and we're just going to be sort of back
Right.
in the same general. So this, I mean,
Yeah. There's these gigantic, massive swings
yeah.
right now, one
Yeah.
way or the other.
And it used to be in our country that those swings took years.
Yeah.
And then we'd go this way, we'd go Democrat,
Yeah.
and then we'd swing back and we'd go to Republican.
Yeah.
And now they happen every 4 years. And it's
Yeah.
hard to stay up on it. It's really hard to stay up on it. I like you. I think you're a great guy. I don't care who you vote for. And
Right.
I think I think there's more of that out there than we give our community credit for.
Yeah.
That people that have different political views or different voting strategies can get along just fine.
Yeah.
I got a friend of mine, high school friend, and we still stay in touch, on and off. And he's way more Republican than you, Brent. and yet, I just listen to him, and I don't speak bad, and we have a reasonable conversation. And every once in a while, he gets off on it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna instigate it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
light him up. I find the middle road, and that's the way I go, and we get along just fine.
It's funny because I have, my own kids. I have 3 kids, and they're divided.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is, and so then the conversations. I mean, when we do have family gatherings, we don't talk about politics at all because
Smart move.
Yeah, yeah, and so, but privately we will have these conversations. And
Right.
I mean, recently I hung out with Brady, spent a couple of days with him, and I mean, he's in his early 30s, spends a lot of time on Reddit. He's, I mean, he is, and I tell him this, is like, dude, you are no different than somebody who is 65 and spends all day in front of Fox News. You know that, right? I mean, you're drinking from one fountain.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and I get and that, I mean, and I guess that's what I preach is that you've got to. I mean, I go home and still watch national news, and I yell at the screen from time to time because I see the bent, you
Yes.
know, but at the same time, I am hungry to be informed.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And as best as you can, given
Right.
given the media source that you choose to use.
Right.
My experience, I'm going to cycle us back around to being, a former mayor and
Yeah.
being a former counselor. Every situation is so much more complicated than the media can even portray.
Yeah.
And what they do is they pick and choose,
Right.
and they try to give you a comprehensive story, but it's impossible.
Yeah.
And so, you got to take it with a grain of salt, regardless of your media source, and say, all right, I'm going to be a brave skeptic on everything that I read until I know as much as I can, and even then, understand that you can never know everything. We're talking about the professionals that the city hires to run these program areas and to run and deliver our services. There's no way I chose a different profession,
Yeah.
and I can't understand all of those things. So
Right.
if I trust what you're doing, then I will get the best for the city.
Right.
And I think, and at some point, all we can do is trust the media source that we have and verify for ourselves if we don't.
Well, and I think that is when I spent that time with Brady, that was, I mean, I knew the Republican talking points, and I know the Republican talking points are created by the Republican Party. They're bent.
That's just as the Democratic
And
one.
that's exactly what I was trying to portray to Brady is like, you know that, I mean, if you just, I can't take whatever is being fed to me as literal because it's not credible.
Right.
And, I mean, it's kind of like, certainly there have been an increase in airplane incidents recently. Okay. And there was that airplane accident that happened in D.C. and the people that were killed and,
Right.
First accident in, I don't know, 13 years or 20 years or whatever it might be, But because of that incident, now the news picks up every little airplane infraction or incident or whatever the case. And there are problems out there, whatever the case might be. But that doesn't change the statistics. Their airline travel is still the safest way to travel. And that's based upon the millions of people that take airplanes every day and arrive there safe.
Yeah.
And, but the point is we're colored. We're so easily colored. So now there's anxiety. I mean, really, there is. People, they're like, I don't know if I want to travel on an airplane or not. Because,
Well, look what happened after 9/11.
Right, yeah.
It's like, freak out, man.
Yeah.
I'm not getting on a plane.
Yeah. And so it's just, I mean, that is how we are so easily influenced in some manner or another.
Yep. We like color. We like snap. we like pizzazz, and media knows that.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I like about what you guys are doing is that you're reporting on the local stuff that matters to folks.
Yeah.
And doing the sports is, where are you going to get that now?
Yeah.
Right? One of the things we talked about when I came in is, and just sort of a transition here, is that we have a local newspaper that comes out once a week now, and it's chock-a-block full of lot of things not relative to our community because it's now regional.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, but in two-thirds of what's in there now is not even germane to my community.
Right.
And what you guys do is hometown.
Yeah.
It's here. It's what's happening with the LeGrand High School sports and what's happening with the EOU sports. And, Commissioner Andrus was just in here, and, you're talking about what's happening at the county level.
Yeah.
And we need that.
Yeah.
Because then I can go and say, and I can verify what you're saying pretty darn easily.
Right,
And I
right.
can, you say something that's interesting to me, well, I'm going to go check that out. And
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go attend a sports event. I can go to the high school graduation. I can go to a bird festival locally. I mean, we need solid local news,
Yeah.
because then people can verify it. Because above that, it's sensationalized.
Yeah.
It's colored.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Well, and we like longer conversations. I mean, I know that everybody wants to get the information quickly and short, but that is when information is condensed, it's really hard to not be colored in some manner or another.
Exactly.
Or you miss something, or
Yes.
whatever the case might be. And
Yes.
I mean, we like the longer conversations because somebody comes in here and they're speaking for themselves. They're not edited. We're not sound biting them. We don't have gotcha
There's
questions.
been no prep for this morning.
Right, yeah. You know, but it's super organic,
Yep.
and it's truthful, and it's
Yeah.
original, you
Yeah.
know, and all of that's
And-
why we like doing that.
and when I blow out of proportion numbers, I
You have a fact
I
checker.
get corrected instantly.
I mean, that set off an alarm.
I'm glad you did, man, because that was like, because in the back of my head I was going, that sounds a little high. Yeah, that sounds a little high. But
Did I see 2,000 people walk through that door yesterday?
I don't think
I
no, I don't think so.
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we'd have enough parking.
No.
No, I don't think we have enough parking. No, I don't think so. Let's not
Yeah.
talk about parking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Steve, thanks.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, and I value your friendship. And
Same here.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I know that hopefully we'll just keep solving problems, or at least talking about problems and pushing people in the right direction.
Well, you know,
and- yeah.
you know, I think you and I had a conversation about this. I don't know how much time you've got. I don't, and
Yeah.
cut me off if you need to. You and I had a conversation about, not too long ago about, you know, forming a group of
Yeah.
people. And there were some women in town who formed a group like this, and it was the lunch backpack thing. You
Yeah.
know? And they solved an issue, and they raised money of their own, and pretty soon kids were going home with backpacks full of food because they didn't have anything otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think that was a glorious thing. There are issues in our community that could use independent thinking minds, and people willing to have a conversation across a political chasm, that could bring time and resources together to solve them that maybe the government doesn't have the ability to do. You know, thought came to my mind just now as I was saying this. Kevin Loveland.
Right, Loveland Safe Ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dude did a big thing. And now it's grown so big that
Yeah.
he needs more resources than he can provide on his own. So, it's a shout out.
Yeah.
If you think this is a good thing, Kevin could use some
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
In fact, I got to get a hold of him. He had a big shindig down there, and I couldn't make it, but I want to make some effort for him.
Yeah.
We need a group like that.
Yeah.
We need 5 to 10 or 15 people who meet more or less regularly to talk about what the issues are, to figure out a way to get them solved, and in either assisting the government to do that or finding a nonprofit that can carry that load for them. So.
Well, and I think that's missing, and I
It
still want to do that. I'm still driven to kind of pull that together because the city, everybody is siloed on purpose because they have a purpose that they're having something they're trying to fix and
Right.
do. I mean,
Right.
the school district and I don't know. There's a number of different organizations, and all of them are doing good things, but there are times we just need somebody who's at the 30,000 foot level who's saying this area needs attention, and as citizens we can get together and talk about that,
Yeah.
and figure.
And what better way
Yeah.
to bridge the political gap
Yeah, right.
than to work on an effort in your community that you can all agree needs help.
Yeah,
And then then politics goes out the window. You're going to fix this.
yeah. Good stuff. Well,
Yeah, very
thank
good.
you for reminding me of that. Yeah, because it's so well. Good. Hey,
Thanks
thank you
for-
always, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And letting me have a forum here. So
Absolutely.
Great.
Get us out of here.
Yeah, let's do it. On this day, May 20th, 1830, Douglas Hyde receives the first U.S. patent for a fountain pen. 1873, on this day, Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis patent the first blue jeans with copper rivets. 1932, on this day, Amelia Earhart leaves Newfoundland for her journey to become the first woman to fly solo and nonstop across the Atlantic. And then we'll jump all the way to 2024 because not much happened between 1932 and 2024 on this day. Actress Scarlett Johansson says OpenAI tried to hire her for voice. When she refused, they created a synthetic voice known as Sky that is almost exactly like hers. It's crazy. And then in 2024, Science magazine says the common cockroach originated in South Asia, according to a new study, and then it was domesticated in Germany before spreading worldwide. On this day, the number one song in America 10 years ago, See You Again, Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth. And then the quote of the day comes from Mark Twain, and I think this very much pertains to people on the internet and things happening right now. It's better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you were a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. One more time. It is better, and I've had this quote before. I really like this quote. It's better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you're a fool than to open it and remove all doubt.
And I would add only one thing to that. That if you do open it and you make yourself a fool, apologize.
Yeah. Have the courage to do so.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Steve.
Very welcome, Brent.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate it. And we'll see. So on Thursday, we're going to have Sajjan, who is the new Chamber of Commerce Director, Union County Commerce Director. Sajjan grew up here in LeGrand. He's a friend of Brady's. A really good kid. I call him a kid because he's the age of my kids. And he'll be right with us here in the studio. See you soon.